Unicorns, and here we are, season 9, episode number 4. Now, Steve says he's not a big fan of 4, but you never know. I think that the number 4 episode, we're going to continue talking about some conspiracies. So
yeah. Oh, I'm like more than like not a fan. I mean, like, what is it when you're on the opposing team and you're not a fan?
Right.
Like, I would actually move into the. I would be demonstratively opposed to the number 4. If we eliminated the number 4 from the Western numerical system, and people are like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, well, you round down or you round up, whichever works to your benefit. Go to 3 or go to 5.
Right.
So, I mean, such better numbers all the way around.
Yeah.
3's Trinitarian, 5's my favorite. So, I mean, come on. Why do we have to... Yeah. 4. It's so
4.
square. 4.
Who knows this 4? Yeah.
You know.
So, Steve, we find ourselves today in a new studio.
We do. Hey, we're going to give you all the pretty shots right now. So
Right.
you got to see Phil on the intro.
Yeah.
Look at this. Told him, look at those sexy blue eyes accentuated by the blue shirt that he's wearing with the
true.
horizontal stripes
Uh-huh.
that if depending on what your the image rate is on your computer or TV, like the waves could be moving.
It could be.
The waves are moving. and then
And
actually I kind of like this shot too.
right.
A little narcissistic move on my part, but hi, I'll
Hey,
look right into
there
the
he
camera
is.
and see you.
Uh-huh.
I see all of you.
He's staring into your soul.
I find you where you are.
He's pulling
Hello,
you through the lens.
people. And if people are like, yeah, that was evil.
It's evil.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
If they think that was evil, they don't know evil.
And then we got the closer up.
Yeah.
The closer up of the two of us. So we're gathered in this just new environment for us. We find ourselves. You know what I found?
Yeah.
My creativity is not limited by any boundary
Right.
because my creativity goes outside of the walls of whatever room I'm in.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It cannot be contained.
Inside my head is bigger than the inside of these walls, of any walls. And so, yeah. People are like, what are you guys on?
Yeah. Who knows?
Absolutely nothing. I'm literally on nothing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not true. I had cheese quesadillas
Oh.
for lunch.
Right.
It was yummy.
So the dairy. Yeah.
Yeah, mango habanero sauce.
Ooh.
Yeah. And Cholula, sweet habanero.
Ah.
Now,
I didn't know they had a sweet habanero through Cholula.
yes, and I've spoken of it.
Uh-huh.
Well, obviously, people went out. Frank's owes us # still not a sponsor.
Right.
But Frank's Hot Sauce, which Nick Prenger actually introduced me to. I think I might have picked up my first bottle of Frank's at Aldi back in the day. And Nick told me, he's like, dude, Frank's is awesome. And I'm like, I've never heard of, like, all I ever knew.
Right.
Now, this just in context.
Because you're talking about the sweet chili, right? Isn't it?
Well, I mean...
Or just Frank's at all.
I'm starting with the manufacturer. The sweet chili, Frank's sweet chili hot sauce, is good. I mean, it's scrumptious.
Right.
But yeah, and people we mentioned it, and people went out and bought it, and they're like, "You're right. This is fantastic. I didn't even know to look for it."
Right.
Well, if you're in the hot sauce section of your local grocery store, you can look where like the Louisiana hot sauce is.
Yeah.
And things like that. And what you will find is Cholula. And Cholula is one of my favorite Spanish, not Spanish meaning Spain, but Mexican Spanish sauces, Cholula. And it's good. I've always liked that as a hot sauce because it's smoky.
I do like it too.
I think they use Chipotle.
Yeah. I think I have 2 big bottles in my
Yeah.
pantry right now.
Yeah. And so with that going on, I found that I like that. And then they came out with this like green sauce.
Yeah.
And then they came out with, and so now there's a garlic one too. And then the other thing that they have is sweet habanero. Now, I will tell you, their sweet habanero has got more habanero than sweet, but it's still sweet. But mango habanero from Buffalo Wild Wings,
Right.
which I can buy on the shelf at the store at Mariano's here in Chicago. And if you can't get it at your Hy-Vee or whatever grocery store you're shopping at, Jewel Osco, Kroger, all the Mariano's is owned by Kroger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for those of us who were alive in the day when Kroger used to be Kroger.
Right. Yeah, because I think Kroger in Arizona is Fry's. Fry's groceries.
So they just bought up another chain.
Right.
And they're using their buying to buy more at a lower price. This is basic economics here.
Yeah.
And to be able to sell, but then they figure if they can give a good breakdown, and they do an okay job of breaking down price, but still people selling us food so we can fill up our pie holes.
Right.
They just want to make money off of our whole wallet and the money. It's all just, hey, how can I separate you from your money?
It's true.
I don't like being on the separated part, like where people step in and like, I've got money and they want to take it from me, or I need to give it to them.
Money, please.
Yeah. I don't like that side of it. Now, if I can be on the other side of it and then I can separate you from your money and it comes into my pocket, I like that.
So when you're in the... like the consumer mentality, you're like, no, this is okay if it's coming in this direction.
When it comes to
You're taking the
consumerism, I am a
position.
total socialist. Let it be free for me.
Right. Free for all.
And there are people listening to this who are cringing right now. And please, it's just a joke.
Right.
I'm just trying to make you laugh. I'm just being ridiculous.
Yep.
So I have a house guest right now.
Yeah.
A friend of ours is visiting from Hong Kong. And she she's been a real delight the last 48 hours in conversation. And oh my gosh, now I forgot why I was going to tell the story that she's even here. But so, yeah, we've been talking about the difference of the economics between countries and all these things. And, oh, I know. Now she's like, oh, I remember I met so-and-so and they were such a cartoon. I said, a cartoon? What are you talking about? She goes, she just is so funny. She's just like a cartoon to me. And
I haven't heard that before.
No. She's taking all of the English words that she's learned to this point, and she's trying to tell like the internalization of how she feels about like someone that she's met one time over dinner at Zombie Burger, and so she's like, oh yeah, she is such a cartoon to me. And I'm like, you mean character? Like that would be our slang.
Right.
That person's quite the character.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out where she was going with it.
Well, and so then the other word that I came up with, I said, what you're saying is that her personality is so animated that it moves her past a reality of humanity into this bigger than life kind of, or just, she goes, I just mean she's so funny.
There we go.
All right. So I said, those people we call comedians.
Mm-hmm.
But
Funny like a clown.
So when I said animated, she goes, now, if I told someone that they were animated, is that would they be offended?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And then I told her, I said, unless they're a person that all they can be is offended. Like it doesn't matter what you say.
Right.
You're going to offend them anyway.
Sure.
And at that point, why are you even like talking with this person and sharing them the endearing details of who they are to you?
It's true.
She looked at me and she said, "What?"
You shot past all of her known.
Overshot by a dot. You know what that means? 7 up.
Yep.
Crap out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So anyway, yeah. So fortunately, we have enjoyed. I almost wore my stocking cap in today because it's been abnormally cool.
It has been. It's
like
weird.
Almost with a brisk Arctic wind.
Yeah, especially because when I was hearing from other people, like in Iowa, and they were saying it was like 80s, 85, and I'm like, it was 50 here.
Right.
I'm like, that's strange to me.
So I'm hoping when I go to Iowa, and that will happen post people listening to this episode. I'm hoping when I get to Iowa that when it's 84 and 86 here, that it's going to be cool there. Maybe I can like travel out of it.
Maybe.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not, but maybe. Who knows?
You know, those are really loose rubber bands to try to tie things together, Phil.
It's true. It's
like, really? Maybe, but who knows? Certainly I don't.
Certainly not. Oh, boy. Yeah.
I just recalled that my phone could actually be turned on, so when people are like seeing my arm reach out to the table, there, it's done. It's on silence.
Yeah, I was just... People keep calling me.
What do they call you?
Who knows? Sometimes son of a bitch.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today our week has been long. Are you tired?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to be able to rest?
We're no.
No.
We got a Reality Bites show tonight. Shout out to Reality Bites.
All right, Reality.
90s cover band from
Bite.
Yeah. From Wally and John. John used to he learned a little bit from going through and controlling the ATEM on the show for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was trying to learn all a different skill set. And so he was here for a little bit. Now he's in like I think I don't know how many bands he's in. I know he does School of Rock and that's his main job, but then Reality Bites and Wally I know has a whole bunch of different bands.
Yeah,
so.
I think Wally's in like 4 bands.
Yeah.
Wally and then if you want to get a real dose of John Nugent, you can go to season 1 and I think it's probably episode 6 or 7. And that'll be a good thing right there.
Yeah.
Reality Bites.
Yeah. That's right, because we interviewed John, right?
We did.
Yeah. So
his lovely Irish face.
That's right.
Yeah. We got good stories out of John.
Yeah, and I think he's headed to Ireland Saturday, so
Really?
Yeah, he's got a cousin's wedding or something. He was just over in the UK for the bachelor party.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought like that the cousin was from the States.
Yeah.
And then they went over to the UK for the bachelor party, but he flew over the pond to join them.
Right.
Yeah. He said of his time that he spent there, there wasn't a lot of it he could really remember.
Right. He says they are very, very active.
A very active Irish group. Yeah. So that's going on. So you won't get that rest. And
yeah. Tomorrow, who knows what?
Pray tell.
I think there's a Costco trip in the future. Based on the stuff for Sunday. So yeah, all kinds of stuff occurring.
Yeah. Well, fun.
Yeah.
Till Daddy takes the T-bird away.
Yeah.
So if you were wondering, we've already had Steve hating on the number 4.
Right. If you've just joined us.
And then there's the delectable delight of, if you are a consumer, socialism doesn't seem so bad. And then we moved into just a recap of life's hard, and then it's Friday.
Right.
And now
we're recording on the same day, so
yeah. This is a quick turn.
Right.
So they'll get the tail feathers of our trailer.
Right.
Will be happening.
Yeah.
And it can't be delayed. Like we can't ramble on and on and on here.
Right.
Because there's actual other work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We got some stuff. We got some stuff to do.
I was telling our guest that we were going to start our day out the door at 9:00 and be able to get in, and we were going to make pots, and we were going to do this stuff, and we were shooting the podcast, and she looked at me and she said, "How can you get all that done in one day?" and I looked at her and I said, "It'll be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get it done."
Yeah.
And then so about 1:00, it was like, I'm kind of getting a little grumbly in my tumbly. Me and the Winnie Pooh were, right on par for course.
You were looking for your bucket of honey?
Oh, well, at least what I was looking for is knowing that I needed to make something.
Yeah.
And so
does she did she eat quesadillas? Or?
she had a piece of quesadilla.
Okay.
Yeah, but last night...
Probably not a staple of her
No.
regular meal.
No, but she understands my affinity and love for sauces.
Yeah.
And last night we cooked Asian, and so she made a dish that her mother taught her to make.
Okay.
And then with that, and we have all the supplies for, what is it? Not egg rolls, not spring rolls, dumplings.
Oh.
Fried dumplings, not boiled dumplings.
I was going to not steamed.
We're not going to steam them.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we got the pork for that.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And so we cooked for 2.5 hours last night. She got the beef and broccoli all put together, and it was lovely. And I had picked up, we went to like 4 Asian markets looking for stuff.
Yeah.
And every Asian market we went to had about 1/3 of what we needed.
Yeah.
And so, we just kept shopping, and like...
Did you go to...
I did.
The Cicero in Alston, where Tyson works at the
chicken place?
Yeah, so there's a market there that's all Asian. Like if you can't find what you're looking for Asian-wise, like I've never... so they have, it calls itself a fish market, but it's a grocery store, and it's all Asian centered.
Huh.
So,
well, when I shopped, or when I put into maps, Asian grocery near me, that did not come up.
Wow.
Yeah. But I had picked up some frozen udon noodles. Mm-hmm. And so I was putting that all together. And I did it up hot. I used chili, garlic, EVVO, and then I have these red chili instead of pepper flakes.
Yeah.
The grocery store in our town grinds them, so they're like a finely, like if you snorted it, it would burn your nostril hole.
I'm sure it would. It might even say on there, don't snort.
Yeah.
This will burn.
So if you have a family member who's in the habit of snorting something like Adderall or opioids or cocaine, and you want them off of it, tell them you found this new hot item.
Hot item.
Sprinkle a little of that in their Stardust.
Yeah.
And So I just put this whole thing together, and then I had gotten shrimp, because we are going to do spring rolls probably on Monday, and So I had boiled up some shrimp and put it in shrimp, and then it's got green pepper, and I had white pepper, and then I did cayenne, and then soy, and then a nice good drizzle of sweet mango habanero from Buffalo Wild Wings. Put this whole thing together.
Wow.
Well, you know what was so cool? When I asked her what she wanted for lunch today, she wanted the noodles.
Oh.
And when she got done last night, she's like, "This is very, very good for a whiteo." And she goes, "I think your stomach is Asian." And I said, my stomach goes between two different continents. I said Asia and Mexico. I'm like, I love Mexican food. And but she doesn't like it. And so
She doesn't like Mexican.
but today I'm like, "Hey, so do you want the beef and broccoli or do you want the noodles?" "Oh, I want the noodles." I'm like, "You sure you don't want a quesadilla?" And she made a face. And then I cut.
But you made her try it anyway.
I cut it. And I was like, "You need to try this." And she goes, "What is this again?" I said, "See, you don't even know what you're saying no to, you know." And but then we had mango pico, and then I brought all the sauces out, and she goes, "These are all the sauces we were looking for at the grocery stores, but you had it right here at the studio." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, like I consume this, and
Right.
so in a socialistic world, you just need more." See what I did there?
I did see that.
So anyway, when I came over here to do the podcast, she was laying down in the zero gravity chair and going to take a nap.
Oh. There you go.
Hey, that's
Still
one way
trying to catch
entertain.
up.
Yeah.
Catch up on that sleep.
Yeah. It's good news.
It's good. It's good news.
Yeah, I can use a nap, but again, no rest for the wicked.
Yeah.
I've got that wicked stare down early. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's okay. When your body says rest, you probably should rest, or it's going to force you into rest, right?
It's true. Yeah.
And so that's the good news and the bad news. Rest.
So in our present reality,
Yeah.
since people could be falling asleep right now.
Right.
They have in the past.
Yeah. Like Matt.
Yeah. But this is episode 4.
Right.
So we do +1. So this is our 5th episode on conspiracies.
Yeah.
So can we, for the record, at least tell people that it's no conspiracy, that we might be up to something?
Is it? Is it a conspiracy? I mean,
Phil's favorite job here, casting doubt on the reality that you perceived yourself to be.
yeah. And I think it already started when we thought it was season 10, or I thought it was season 10.
You're committed to that
Right.
conspiracy.
I'm still like, it's possible that we actually make it all the way through season 9, and then we're like, wait a second, season 10 is the same. Who knows? Like, we do not know yet.
I'm backing Daisy the unicorn up to be able to take a look at your computer. There, now she's got a good
Right.
view.
Now she's peeking.
Yeah. Boom.
She's-
People were wondering
she's
if
got a good view.
Daisy was coming alive. The answer
Right.
is Daisy's never been dead.
And for those that are listening, they have no idea.
Oh, we have a little pink unicorn that I got at Target. And when we named the old crow, or the blackbird, the raven, when we did a live show where we were able to take requests, and we did surveys, and we surveyed for the favorite name for the bird.
Right.
His name's Edgar.
Edgar.
Thank you, Aunt Linda, for bringing us that name.
Right. Yeah. Because, I think it is from the Edgar. Right. Right. It was from the Poe line.
Yeah.
Nevermore, nevermore,
Edgar Allan
says the raven.
Poe. Yeah, and so we got this pink with a golden horn and little golden flecks of fur.
Right.
Yep, she's priceless.
It's very manly, just so you know.
Yeah, if aesthetics of gender matter to you, then feel free. It's manly.
Right. But either way, even if you said it wasn't, we're still okay.
So random. People have been waiting for this the whole episode.
Oh, yeah.
Random thought from Steve.
Here we go.
Based on our conversation. My principal in elementary, his first name was Manly.
Oh.
Manly Faye.
That was his first name?
Yeah.
Manly. What is a parent doing there? I mean, sometimes I look back and I'm like, where do you get that?
So this is reasonably 1979.
Yeah.
I'm in 6th grade. I mean, technically, 6, 5, 4. 4, 5, and 6 were all in the same building.
Mm-hmm.
Kindergarten, first, maybe even 3rd grade was there. Yeah, but the principal.
And Manly was there your whole history.
Yeah, he didn't die or didn't, take another position somewhere else. He didn't become superintendent or anything.
Was he older or younger?
Yeah, I mean, like by older, I mean, he was at least my age that I am right now. I mean, I would guess, late 40s, mid 50s.
So if we put his year of birth in, what would that would be?
Probably 50s. Late 40s.
Okay.
Maybe mid 40s.
Early 40? I don't know.
If it was mid 40s, it was about 15 years after the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like the era of which somebody would be like, Manly. That's a good name for a boy. Manly. This infant. We want it to be Manly. Oh, that's a good name. Let's call him Manly. Now, and was it a nickname? Was that the given name? I mean, there's so many questions from your random thought.
Yeah.
That are going through my head. Manly. Wow. So you're it's quite a random thought.
Well, yeah, so I enter in the name Manly, and it doesn't even come up as like, hey, by the way, this is in the top 100 names of the last 100 years.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would be. I mean, that's a pretty unique name.
I would say so.
Yeah. It's like one of those
Another interesting fact about El Principal Manly Faye.
Yeah.
He was really big into square dancing. He was really big.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a large man. But he was smooth on his feet. It's crazy. So we would have sections of our physical education.
Yeah.
And they would pull us in, and we would have to learn how to square dance. But I think the reason we had to learn how to square dance is because Manly Faye really liked to square dance. I don't recall.
So popularity was in 1217. Origin is British. And yeah, Manly as a boy's name is an Old English origin, and the meaning of Manly is shared land or man's meadow.
Oh, I think there's more that goes behind this than we even know.
Yeah. Wait, no. Popularity is just saying, I mean, so it says popularity is 12,179. I don't know if that's on the list of like popular names. It's like 12,179.
See, that makes sense.
Okay, that
right?
would make sense.
Yeah. Like out of, if you're going to name 12,700 babies, one at the end might be named Manly.
Yeah.
I'm going to squeak here.
So it looks like the Trying to get the new view in. So I'm a little bit further away from the computer, so I always have to zoom in. So 1880 was the peak of using the Manly as a name. Now it doesn't say what it was number 1,702. Apparently that's the rank of the popularity.
Yeah.
So that was at its height. So its height of popularity giving your child the name Manly, 1880. And that's where it's moved today to be 24,000. Now it's completely dropped out. And that was in 2000. Apparently they must have had somebody named Manly in 2000.
Wow. 23 years that name has been extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
I don't know. So anybody out there listening, you're like, oh, I'm trying to figure out a name for my kid. Manly. Yep. It's Manly. I don't think I have ever heard of a given name Manly. So I know that there's lots of people who tried to be manly, take on that persona, but never heard of the name. The surname Manly is an Anglicanization of the Irish English name Manly was often used as a further anglicized form. Okay. I don't know. Crazy to me. I think there's probably a hole to go down looking at the manly name.
Right.
But we're here to talk about conspiracy theories. Not Manly. Even though Manly was the random thought from Steve for today. It's okay. Random thoughts are good.
Well,
but what does it have to do with conspiracies?
I've got several. Yeah.
Several random thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do that for a while.
They're all floating right here currently. They're just out there right now.
Yeah.
We'll see if you pull one down or not. But, yeah, so where are we going with conspiracies today, Steve? Where are we at with conspiracies?
So, for those who are really enjoying this travel, since we did Lines in the Sky last week, we thought, let's head over to secret societies, and let's take a different approach on that than normally, because people are, all right, great, we're gonna get to hear about the Knights Templar, or okay, what about these other people? And apparently this is my animated voice. Oh, really? That's why we're talking about this now?
Cartoon voice.
Yes, exactly. and so, but we were thinking, you brought up the financial institution,
right? And
of the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve.
And in that, we're dealing with, emotion and movement within our country to go off the gold standard, which up until that point, and I will say concerning money and being separated from it, since birth, I have been. Mm-hmm. At least somebody was paying the toll.
The troll toll.
Yeah, great. One of the things, in watching Curse of Oak Island, early pieces of money were metals, and they didn't necessarily have a designation. It was more by weight, and because of the weight of that, and the more precious the metal, the more value for lighter weight, but you got the precious metal, whether it was gold, silver, copper, bronze, and whether you can believe it or not, even iron. And so, with these things coming to fruition, if somebody would come up and, like, let's say, just for the sake of telling stories, Phil, I like your donkey. And you're like, well, that's awesome because I have 3.
Right.
I'm like, well, I'd like to be able to buy one.
Huh.
And you'd say, well, I will take 3, let's call it copper pieces.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, well, I don't think it's worth 3 copper pieces, but I will give you 1.5. And you're like, well, I want 2.5. And I'm like, well, what about 1 3/4? See, we're not even talking about hundreds of dollars or, how many dollars or anything like that. It's just this, here's this precious metal that we're going to exchange. Well, literally, I could pull out the 3 copper coins, or I would pull out 2 copper coins, and we settled in on that I'm going to buy your donkey for 1 3/4 copper coins. Well, then I'd take just like a pair of pliers, and I'd tear off 1/4 of the coin. And then I would hand you 1 3/4, and you would get that. And that would be something that if you went into someone who held those, maybe if you had 10 coppers, you could buy 1 brass. And so when you got your 10 coppers put together, and then you take it to the person who had the weigh station, and they put it on just to verify the weight, and then you could upgrade your metal material. And so
then who decided which level of metals would be the most valuable? Like, so was there, because it's like we have the denominations.
I'm going to get really animated again. I'm like, really, Phil? Well, this is simply economics, dude. Come on. The ones worth the most are the ones that are the hardest to get. Supply and demand, right? So if you're mining and it takes 3 different metals to make an iron, but those are easily and readily available, their value would be less. But if you have to dig a hole to go under a mountain to be able to get gold, and to extrapolate that,
right.
See, I'm using all kinds of $8 words today. And people are like, $8 words? Oh, I'm like, inflation, folks, come on.
Yeah. And is this the reason why then there would be a gold standard? Because gold would be the standard, right? So it's hard to get.
Yep.
And so because it's hard to get, then you also have to be able to, you put these things together in order to try to get gold.
Well,
right. We know the gold rush, and the whole thing was happening there, right?
Yeah.
So
and basically based on troy ounces, gold had a universal standard value. And what determined that was the amount of it that was available. So there was a time when if you were going to make a loan in the United States, you had to have that value held in your bank's vault to back the note that was being written that someone was taking out as a loan.
Yeah.
So even if they defaulted on the loan, you still had the value in your institution. Well, that's what back in the 1900s, and a lot of people have seen 1923.
Right.
The changes happening within. Very interestingly, Tabor Church was built in 1927, the church part, to give people an idea of money and like value. I was reading the historical book that's in the back of the church in regards to the building of the church, and the church was built for $150,000 in 1927. So, Steve, random thought, Steve,
Yeah.
Because he shows up at the table all the time. Random Thought Steve was like, I wonder what that would be if you like put in. Do you know that there's an inflation calendar online? You just have to Google it. And so,
I do know that.
see, I mean, most people by this point would.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how did we figure out that Manly was like extinct for the last 20 years?
Right.
And so, you know, with that, then you come in and $150,000 in 1927, valued estimate today would be $1.6 million. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd like to separate somebody from their $1.6 million.
It's true.
Right? Uh-huh. I put on sad eyes and kind of pouty lips. And one of my favorite quotes, see, I'm going to do this all day long. One of my favorite quotes from Maverick Top Gun is when they're in the bar and Mav is sitting at the bar talking to his old girlfriend, and then all the patches are around the pool table, and they're like, yeah, I wonder what kind of what's the mission they're going to put us on. And Phoenix, the lady pilot, is like, that's not the question we should be asking. So somebody asks, well, what's the question we should be asking? And she's like, we're the best of the best. Who are they going to get to teach us? And then Mav gets dumped overboard. But, so like when you come to, asking the questions about, value and money and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, so the gold standard back in the day, one gold coin was the equivalent of what you would pay for a suit. Like there were standards of what the value was worth.
Yeah.
But once money, and we moved into a fiat system, was established, then in that, you just run into problems all over the place, because all they do is, if we run out of money, we just print more.
True.
So everybody thinks that they're making a lot of money these days, but you're really not. Mm-hmm. You're just getting more dollars for your time, but you're not making more.
Right.
Because based on how much money is in circulation, and at one time, it had to be backed by gold. So for every dollar printed, there was $1's worth of gold held by the government. You see like
the Fort Knox kind of stuff, right? Like all the gold in Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Even though that's probably not the place where so, that was a standard. So then you can see that the fluctuation of the dollar can be pretty volatile then. So somebody could mess with it and say, hey, like, this is what we can do in order to be able to fluctuate the actual quantity or price, or, what the dollar is actually going to represent.
Yeah.
So what do you know about the Fed Reserve? The Federal Reserve. What do you know about it? What's the job of the Federal Reserve?
Well, usually the Fed, like the Fed Reserve, it's really an oxymoron, because we think of it as a governmental institution.
Yeah.
But it's not. Like, even the founding fathers, with all of their, another $8 word, foibles.
Right.
They never saw that. There was a point in time, based on our research that we've done for today's episode, there was a point in time where for you to be able to cash a check, you had to be in the city where the money was being held. Like, and it couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think here's where the British were like, oh, 1776, you want to have your own country? All right, go right ahead. But then when it came to shipping and cargo and stuff being exported and going back and forth, and we can grow cotton here, And well, we need cotton for manufacturing and all of that stuff going on. But the funny thing is that all of the money that was being used for the exchanges of those things, none of it was sourced in the U.S. So you got a bunch of bankers that are hacked off because they're not able to collect the interest for all of the money that's being borrowed. And on this whole time sensitivity thing on like, well, if I'm going to spend $100 for a cargo ship of, I don't know, pick some commodity, that's known. Oh, okay, Irish whiskey. And so then, okay, $100. Well, all of a sudden I get a case of Irish whiskey over here. And then I sell the Irish whiskey. So let's say I paid $3 for a bottle, and there's 12 bottles in a case. So it's $36. So with $100, I bought 3 cases at $3 a bottle, and that gives me my $100. But when I'm selling the Irish whiskey, then I'm getting, back in the day, let's just say that I would get $9 for a bottle of Irish whiskey. Or if I'm a bar owner, I probably get 17 shots or 17 pours out of a bottle of whiskey. So, if I'm doing that for 50 cents a shot, I'm making 17 times 2 is 34. See what I did there?
Right.
So then for every 2 shots, somebody's spending $1, $34 for 1 bottle. As a bar owner, I only had to sell 1 bottle to cover my case.
Yeah.
And that's not even talking about watering it down, because we've all seen that in the movies.
We have.
But then all of a sudden I spent $36 for 1 case, but I make $36 on a bottle times 12. Now I've got 300 and some odd dollars, and that was 1 case. So now just by borrowing $100, I was able to make $1,000. But the time that it would take me to be able to sell the whiskey to pay off the note, and then you got the VIG. And the VIG is, the more dangerous, the more risky the investment is, the higher the interest the person who's giving the money will charge. So if you're doing illegal things, you're probably getting your money to do the illegal things from people who have money from doing illegal things.
Right.
And what they're doing with that is then they're saying, you can't get this money to do the illegal thing you want to do, so I'm going to charge you a higher interest rate than, but, hey, if you've got the potential to make $1,000 by spending, and, by spending, well, actually it'd be $3,000 because each case would get you $1,000. So, I mean, that's a good return for buying Irish whiskey.
Yeah. So the Federal Reserve, you're saying not governmental agency, correct?
It's not, no.
But why is it then they have a lot of control? I mean, they pretty much are looking at inflation right now, and then they're increasing the amount of, they're in charge of the interest rates. And so if it's not a federal agency, why do they have so much control over interest rates?
Yeah. So there were, back in the day, you had to keep the money in reserve. So there were no dollar bills in the United States unless it was backed by gold. So let's say at the time gold was worth $100 an ounce. Now, obviously I'm using round numbers, low numbers, just to make it easy. Yeah. Currently, an ounce of gold is like $1,900 an ounce. Okay. All right. And the really undervalued precious metal is silver. Like, I think it's hanging, it's hanging down there. It's not even anywhere close to gold. Yeah. I mean, when's the last time you saw a silver mining show on Discovery?
It's true.
Yeah, not there. But
You want to switch back
Oh, yeah.
so they can see your pretty face?
Oh man. So so then Fort Knox had the gold. They printed the money. The money went to the banks.
Yeah.
Well, as the banks had the money there, they had large. They were required to have reserves of the cash, but the reserves were scattered through the nation, and as they were held in the vaults of banks, then it was the designated reserve in the central reserve cities. Well, then as things would happen, if there was a crisis, then all of that would be frozen, and meaning you couldn't get your cash out or you couldn't put cash in. Well, so then, yeah, it just became this whole thing of volatility.
Yeah.
And ultimately, somewhere along the line, somebody made up this thing called the stock market. And so I really think that one of the things behind the Federal Reserve is figuring out how people could be able to borrow money to be able to invest in the stock market so that they could be able to make more money off the people that they were selling stocks to, which is also, there's a VIG involved.
Right.
Anytime you know, like, can anyone trade on the stock market? Well, technically now, yes, but at the time, no.
Right.
But you have to go through like a FDIC, like approved agency.
Right.
You know, and if you're TD Ameritrade, now you've been changed over to something else. You'd think I should know because I was, and apparently it's changing this week. But like the conglomeration got bought out by other people, Schwab or something like that. Yeah, so like there's all these rules and regulations, and Lord knows what you don't want to do is you don't want to break the law about money across state lines, because then it becomes a federal offense. I mean,
so the Federal Reserve,
just stating that for
when
a
it
friend.
started, everybody probably loved it then, right?
No, I don't think so. Because now we're getting into
now we get into the root of the conspiracy.
yeah, who controls the money? It's like, who controls the diamonds? Who controls, these precious things that are coming in? And usually when it involves people groups, there are people, as much as I'm not a fan of the number 4, there are people who are not a fan of other people groups.
Yeah, so when you look at it, I believe the Fed was started in 1913, right? Yeah. Which is the same year, right? And it was started by Woodrow Wilson. That was the year he was elected, right? So that was his presidency. He's like, hey, everybody, not only am I going to be the new president, I'm also going to start the Fed.
Right.
Like the Federal Reserve is going to be started here and now, right in this place. And so I can't imagine. I mean, if you're looking at the state of our politics, which I'm not saying it was the same, but I'm also not saying that it was a lot different either. But a new president coming in and saying, hey, I'm starting the Federal Reserve, I can't imagine that it would be, as popular with people.
Can you imagine what people would do if Joe Biden all of a sudden said, hey, by the way, I'm blowing away the FDIC and there's not going to be any insured money any longer.
Right.
And we have come up with a new system.
Right.
We will be the nation of Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, so you can imagine then that somebody's
there would
like,
be a civil
what is
war,
happening?
and by civil, no one would be civil.
It would not be civil.
And the other part is that in a war, it wouldn't be like the North against the South. This would be in a multilateral division. In North America, we have Canada, we have the United States. There would become new nations, fragmented, much like the Eastern Bloc countries, over the border from the Big Bear.
You mean like California or?
No.
I mean Eastern. I'm like big bear, like bear. I always think of California.
Soviet Union.
Oh, like them east, like way east.
We're like the Eastern Bloc. I'm going east, Steve, and I'm in California.
Right. Like,
I'm like,
if we just keep going,
California. Well, you can go east long, but we've passed over. Yeah, Eastern Bloc countries like Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia and the Ukraine, and
California is the east to somebody.
The East Coast girls are hip. I really dig the styles they wear.
Yeah. So then 1913 comes, Federal Reserve is put in place. And
no wonder the country fell to shit in 1930.
And then we look at it and say, so what were the core issues with the Federal Reserve when it starts? And I think that's where we start with this whole conspiracy, because people are saying, oh, we're going to a European-style central banking in the United States. What is happening? Why are we trying to go?
From Europe gave birth to the New World Order.
Right. And this is where the New World Order comes in again. I mean, we brought it up a little bit with the chemtrails, but here's another New World Order issue. And I still hear it from people today, like, oh yeah, this is just another thing that's trying to bring us to a centralized world order, or in other words, New World Order. And it's the same thing. The conspiracy theory starts there because it's saying we are all of a sudden becoming more centralized to the world. No one so all of this like Fed hysteria stuff, right, is apparently became highlighted in the 20s. And I'm sure probably prior to that too, but it was just one of the things that popped up in our research here. Was in the 20s, Henry Ford was was an outspoken person against the Fed, and he wrote a multi-volume, as they call it, anti-Semitic conspiracy opus called The International Jew, in which the Fed plays a starring role in this whole thing. And so what you find is, like, when you're thinking about Henry Ford, I didn't know that he had this whole thing going on. We know him from automobiles. Ford was automobiles.
Do you know that he actually, like, he was in Edison's think tank? Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah. Who's my little buddy?
Which buddy?
I don't have very many, dude. Nikolai.
Oh, Tesla?
Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
So Tesla came over.
Yeah.
And Nikolai Tesla might be Count Dracula.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, because he was from that area.
Right. Yep.
Speaking of Eastern Bloc.
Mm-hmm.
Transylvania.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, the think tank that Edison had.
Yeah.
Henry Ford was in that think tank.
Huh.
Along with Tesla.
Yeah.
And I know this because I watched Ford versus Ferrari.
Right, multiple times. Right, we've talked about that in prior seasons. Yeah, I mean, and so when you're thinking about so Henry Ford, not a, he's an influential guy,
Yeah.
and so he starts a little novel, a little opus as they call it, a little, this is my, he's starting a theory that there's something that's underneath the current of the Fed and its creation of. And so if he's starting with the idea that there is Jewish influence in the Federal Reserve, how many times is this going to feed into the kind of the craziness, the theories out there, and feeding into a lot of the stereotypes of what the Jewish man or Jewish person is, which if you're looking at 1920s, this is already right out of World War One,
Right.
prior to World War Two.
I'm getting the picture you're painting.
Right? I mean, and so conspiracy theory then gets wrapped into
But wait for it.
actual.
So, do you know who one of the main people was that authored the idea around central banking for the United States?
Who was it?
Well, I'll tell you right now, he was German born. He was a German born financier
Yeah.
by the name of Paul Warburg, who was a partner at the investment bank Kuhn, Loeb and Company, and widely regarded as an expert on the banking systems in the United States and Europe, wrote that the United States financial system was at about the same point that had been reached by Europe at the time of the Medicis and by Asia, in all likelihood at the time of Hammurabi, Warburg, 1907. And so Warburg writes this thing, and he's a person of note. 1907. Then there's a panic in 1907, and it galvanized the Congress. Aldrich sounds German too, doesn't it?
Does.
He's the chair of the Senate Finance Committee. In 1908, Aldrich sponsored a bill and then created the National Monetary Commission to study reforms to the financial system. And then Henry Davidson, a partner of J.P. Morgan, money, 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 money.
Everybody knows J.P. Morgan still. Yeah.
And Piatt Andrew, an economic professor at Harvard University, over the next 2 years, they studied banking and financial system exclusively and visited Europe to meet with the bankers and the central bankers. So they're like, hey, okay, so 1776, 1876, you got 100 years. We moved from killing beavers and taking their pelts, and buffaloes almost extinct,
Right.
into the industrial age. J.P. Morgan, I mean, all of these old money East Coast industrialists are just, I mean, railroads going across the United States, and
Right.
everybody's in a rush, and it's the gold rush, and it's people, all that stuff happening. Squatters' rights galore. Just go somewhere, pound in some steaks, and say, "This is my land.
This is my land.
This land is your land. This land is my land." From
It's not
California,
your land, my land.
Yeah. So, like, all of that stuff's going on, and you got people from Europe influencing people in the United States, saying, "Yeah, you don't have the system figured out, so here, follow our system, or at least put this together."
Yeah.
And so they went in November of 1910. 6 men: Aldrich, Andrew, Henry Davidson, Shelton, Frank Vanderlip, and Paul Warburg met at the Jekyll Island Club.
Ah, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is before 1910, but I'm sorry, this is after 1907, the Panic of 1907. You got the German financier over there saying, yeah, your system's antiquated and it's going to go
Kaput.
bad really fast because, and there's, the rush on people trying to get their money out, but people not money, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And all of this on the worldwide front or platform, shall we say. But so they went to this place, I mean, in this island, like, quote unquote, the dude's cottage there, I mean, looks like one of these houses on the North Shore, like sitting on Sheridan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, huge. I'm using air quotes for everybody listening. If you manage to navigate this first hour with us,
Right.
just know that, yeah, I mean, and they're gathered. But so that people who were at this place wouldn't know who they are,
Yeah.
they all went by their first names. They called each other by first names. They called themselves the First Names Club. Seems like there's a small number of people getting put to, but of course, in their minds, they were doing this for the sake of the greater good, right?
Right.
Because we have to keep, because we don't want mass hysteria. So how many times, how often does it happen? There's a small group of people getting together, and for the sake of the larger group, they're making decisions. And then it all comes back to, I have this question. If money used to be backed by gold, but it was no longer backed by gold, what happened to the gold that was backing the money? And that takes me to Fort Knox.
Right.
Do you know how long it's been since there's been an audit at Fort Knox?
I don't know.
Over 60 years.
So we don't even know what's there.
We,
the general public, don't know what's there.
No idea.
Right.
Like
somebody knows.
But who? The
Right.
guy that gets to clean the toilets?
I'm assuming it's protected, right?
So the question here is, what if the nearly 500 million ounces of gold that the government says is stored in Fort Knox isn't really there?
So you're saying that the Federal Reserve conspiracy has fingers in more than just the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, well, it just begs the question. If somebody comes up with if somebody has the thought to engineer a new way to do banking, and the new way to do banking is to not tie money to the standard that has been the historic standard. If gold sitting, and we're talking about 150 million ounces, reportedly. If there's 150 million ounces of gold sitting in the Federal Reserve that had been there to back the money for the nation itself.
Right.
And then because of the Federal Reserve, it's no longer needed to back
it up.
money. What happens to that gold? It hasn't lost its value as gold.
No.
But it's no longer required for the job that it was procured for.
Right.
See, another $8 word. Ding, ding. If I get two more,
Yeah.
I
It's
go
a jackpot.
I go bingo, man. The cost of construction of Fort Knox,
Yeah.
$560,000, which would be a cost today of $9.5 million to make this place.
Okay.
Which just really means it's antiquated security.
Right.
It housed more than gold at Fort Knox. The English crown jewels. Why are the English sending their jewels over here?
Yeah, that's weird.
It's so weird. Yeah. All right.
Which is then further conspiracy theory like fodder.
The Magna Carta. All right. The Bill of Rights, the original Constitution documents.
All at Fort Knox.
Like, so at some time it has, apparently during World War II. It opened in 1937. So this is going to get you right in the not anti-Semitic way, but it's still going to get you. 3 volumes of the Gutenberg Bible. Do you want to explain to people what the Gutenberg Bible was?
Yeah, so Gutenberg, of course, if you know the name Gutenberg, it would be based on the printing press. So the printing press was the first mass production tool Before it was all, hey, let's grab our pens and papers and write everything out. But then you got the mass producing thing, right? You get the
Industrial Revolution.
right. I mean, and it was huge movement. I mean, the printing press was huge. So part of what Gutenberg did was also he printed the Bible. And those Bibles have become like, I mean, if you get a Gutenberg Bible today and it's still in one piece, like you're gonna be, a wealthy person.
Yeah.
So Gutenberg Bibles are still, something to get your hands on, because it was the first, some of the first things that were printed, on the printing press.
So take me back into Lutheran theology and Lutheran history. Yeah. All right. What year was it?
So the printing press was in 1482.
Yeah. And so in 1482, what year did Luther nail?
That would be 1517.
So in 1517. Now,
right. So actually, and so you're looking at prior, and the way, I mean, if you're bringing this in, the printing press was big for the Protestant Reformation.
Right.
So the Protestant Reformation breaking away from the Catholic Church, or at least trying to raise the red flags about the things occurring, within the Catholic Church. Some would say they weren't breaking away, that they were just trying to say, hey, this isn't good. But it was huge because the Protestant Reformation began in Germany, or, and this is, for the case of summation, we're going to say it began. But yes, there were people prior to, Luther, sure, who were trying to do some Reformation work. But the largest piece of the Protestant Reformation began in Germany, and he was mass producing off of the Gutenberg printing press the 95 Theses. And those were 95 separate statements saying, we're putting you on blast right now, Pope.
Yeah.
Saying, like, he was talking about the indulgences that were being sold, taking money away from poor people, yeah, and putting it into the church, because the church, of course, didn't have enough money. Yes, that was sarcastic. If you so they had plenty of money, and yet they were still trying to figure out every single way of taking from even the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
And indulgences were a good way. So they were selling these indulgences. So the 95 Theses, they were mass produced, put out especially into Germany, got people thinking, and also saying, oh, like, he makes a good point. Let's not do this anymore. And so the Gutenberg printing press was huge, not just for the mass production of other material, but it was, you can find it was a huge kind of central piece and that changed history.
Yeah.
So
with all of that, not only is that historically as we remember it being taught to us, mm-hmm, but what I'd also like to say is, note, there is a common thread of Germany happening here.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about Fort Knox, what is the likelihood that from the German financier to the German-held printed Word of God and the value of these things intermingling, mm-hmm, with money in safe places? So during World War II, there are 3 volumes of the Gutenberg Bible. Also, it held the gold reserves for occupied Europe countries from 41 to 44. So while the countries were occupied by Germany, mm-hmm,
they sent their gold out.
Somebody had a boat.
It's an expensive boat.
Somebody had a boat. It was the largest amount of gold ever stored at Fort Knox at 40.5 million pounds.
Wow.
When we break pounds into ounces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
40.5 million on December 31st, 1941, weighing the same as 90 statues of liberty.
Wow.
No, I haven't seen.
You haven't seen the Statue of Liberty?
In person?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
No. I live a sheltered life.
It's very sheltered. No.
So then the question is asked about Fort Knox. How much and how safe is it? Well, apparently right now, current amount stored is 147.3 million ounces. So that's ounces, that's not pounds.
Right.
And fun fact, that's 3% of all refined gold that has ever existed.
Okay.
All
so
right.
it's only 3%.
Yeah. So then the question is, well, how secure is it? Well, there's barbed wire, electric fences, armed guards housed on a U.S. Army post, unmarkable Apache helicopter gunships, UFO, ground sweeping radar, minefields, the vault door, impenetrable by torch, driller explosive, weighs 22 tons and is 21 inches thick. That's almost double the 12 inches of steel surrounding the hull of the USS Missouri battleship.
Wow.
So in 2011, Senator Ron Paul called for an audit of the gold at Fort Knox. The last full audit occurred during the Eisenhower administration in 1953.
So we called for it, but did it happen?
So no outside experts were granted access.
Mm-hmm.
Only 5% of the gold was tested. And there has been no full audit for over 60 years. Brad Meltzer, Decoded History Channel. Brad and team don't believe that there is gold in Fort Knox. Bill Still also doesn't believe that there's any gold in Fort Knox. Bill is respected as an author, editor, and documentarian. He's written publications for USA Today and a radio show, written 22 books, 2 documentaries. Should we blindly trust the government about Fort Knox? It says here, probably not. Here are a few reasons.
So it sounds like the conspiracy theory of Fort Knox is even big. Like there's lots of fingers here because if we're saying, I mean, how much do you think the budget is to run Fort Knox?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, if you're talking about a government base with Apache helicopters and this level of security, and yet people are still have a theory that there's actually not that much gold in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so is there something else in there, or is this just the presumption that they're like we're spending like millions of dollars to put on an illusion? Is that the case with Fort Knox then?
Yeah, I mean, like the question then comes up, and it's interesting how this article bends and shifts into the conspiracy upon conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Is, should we trust the government about Fort Knox? It says probably not. Here's just a few reasons. Turns out the NSA has been spying on us. Which I mean, we know, but right. I mean, okay. Yeah. The U.S. Public Health Service really wasn't treating syphilis in African Americans.
Right.
All right.
Which we knew that too.
Genocide.
Right.
They really were administering a cancer-causing polio vaccine for almost 10 years, from 1954 to 1961. Whew, made the cut on that one.
Yeah. Good job.
Wow. So the New World Order sounded like a ridiculous conspiracy for many years.
Yeah.
Turns out the Bilderberg Group really does have an annual meetings, and they're virtually unreported and have little to no media coverage. Bilderberg consists of 120 to 150 world leaders. They meet to discuss global issues of finance, economy, academia, and we really don't know what else. The world's top leaders gather and the media doesn't talk about it.
Which is, I mean, like, do you believe that a small group of people can control the world?
Or that they are. Or that they, yeah, I mean, like, is this all smoke and mirrors? Mm. And we're asking this question, and for some people, like, we're really not helping you out at all.
Right.
But how does six wealthy people say, you know what, the system's broke?
Mm-hmm.
So
or they're already thinking. I mean, because I don't think it was broken yet. It was almost like they were trying to be preemptive, right?
well,
That's
but
what
see,
it sounds
that's where.
like, right? Preemptive, like, hey, let's fix something that's gonna be broken eventually.
But I think in the combined with the article that the German financier Paul Warburg.
Mm-hmm.
So when Paul Warburg wrote this article in 2007, that 3 years later he heads up a group he's invited with the group Nelson Aldrich put together to meet together. You have world platform leaders gathering together in the confines of a secret retreat to come up. And so to cover their trail, they said that they were duck hunting. And they called each other by first name so that the servants wouldn't even know who they were in these conversations.
Well, and I mean, and if you also look at it, I mean, it's on Jekyll Island, which is the evil, aspect to, so Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde is the evil.
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
mind. So I guess that doesn't play into it. Dr. Jekyll was the good part. Hyde was the bad one. So never mind.
So then that's where a member of the exclusive Jekyll Island Club, most likely J.P. Morgan, arranged for the group to use the facilities. And the club was founded in 1886.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 1907. 1910 is when they had the meeting. So 25 years later. So you're hearing names like J.P. Morgan, Marshall Field, and William Vanderbilt. This is the old East Coast money.
Right.
That's and I just want to dive further into the idea of Jekyll Island and what's happened. It looks like one of that island thing that Leonardo DiCaprio was on and stuff.
Because apparently it continues to be a source, because May 2009, a group of leading radical rightists convened in the South Georgia Key known as Jekyll Island, where 100 years earlier, those bankers, government officials, hashed out the plans for the Fed system. But that meeting played a key role in launching the current resurgence of many of the militias that we know as hate groups today. So even in 2009, this has become a central place in which somebody says, hey, let's go there and think about a plan for launching something. And so it's within that group, out of this Jekyll Island, that they were looking at increased national instability. And so that was their thought. And this was less than 5 months into the Obama administration.
Yeah.
Right? That these hate groups, militia groups, far right extremist groups are already saying, oh, there's instability, let's put in place something, just like in 1907 that they, is it 07, right? 1907?
1907 is when Warburg wrote the article saying, hey, this is a house of,
Oh, it was
and then
1910
was the meeting. During that meeting, Aldrich and his colleagues realized that they had agreed on some broad principles, and those principles were establishing an elastic currency supplied by a bank that held the reserves of all banks.
Central banking system.
Yeah. But they disagreed on the details and how to figure that out.
Right.
So, they worked together on it, and they put the most intense period of work together. So they developed a plan for a Reserve Association of America. Mm-hmm. And basically the idea that each branch would be governed by boards of directors elected by the member banks in each district, with larger banks getting more votes. And so single central bank with 15 branches across the country. And then the idea was the branches would be responsible for holding the reserves of their member banks, issuing currency, discounting commercial paper. Seems interesting, huh?
Right.
Like when you got people who are working with commercial stuff, it's like, how do we work this out so that we can benefit from it? We're going to discount that.
Yeah.
Get a better deal. Transferring balances between branches and check clearing and collection. The national body would set discount rates for the system as a whole and buy and sell securities. So now that group has established themselves that what they're going to do is they're going to buy and sell securities as well.
Stock market.
Well, I think in this situation, it's like the treasury bonds. You know, like, so to cover our debt, so much is issued, people can buy into them. There's dividends that are given, you know, there's, you know, and things like that. I think we've just moved into the part where a banking specialist would be able to speak more distinctly, like accurately. But you know, like when you hear about the 10-year bond,
right,
which is like where our mortgage interest is based off of, you know, that's that thing. You got a 1-year bond, you got 6-month bond, you got a 5-year bond, you got 10. And back in the day, I mean, again, back in the day, no one would ever consider a 30-year mortgage. Like if you were buying a house,
right,
you know, you were buying a house. It was, you know, like the idea of a 10-year mortgage was outlandish. People just didn't do that.
right.
But what happened when you are able to finance large amounts of money over longer amounts of time, you're able to charge more for the product.
Right.
And this benefited the builders who, think about it, post-World War II, all the fighters, all the military people are coming back. What are they doing? Well, they've just been dodging bullets, so they're coming back, getting married, having kids.
Babies.
And what are they going to do with these babies? You know, when in 1967, you could buy a home in Ankeny, Iowa for $13,000.
Yeah.
You know, I think when we did the study on all the years and stuff like that, we were looking at prices and stuff. I think in 1967, Ford Mustang sold for about $3,500.
Funny.
Right?
Yeah. And
blow my mind, because I got to see Adam and Michaela last weekend. They're talking about the Jeep Wagoneer. You know the price tag on a Jeep Wagoneer?
$35,000?
No, dude. Triple that.
What?
$100K.
For the Jeep wagon?
The brand new Jeep Wagoneer.
Yeah.
Sticker price. $97,000.
What?
Like it has the inflatable suspension where you can like raise it or you can lower it. 3 seats. I mean, they're going full luxury on this.
Wow.
And so like, I mean, think about it, folks.
It's crazy.
I bought my first rental property for $113,000 in 1997.
Yeah.
I mean, and again,
yeah. I think
when we're looking at money as consumers,
yeah.
take a look at what it costs you to have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a head of household and you're paying for cell phones for the whole household, what does that cell phone payment represent? It's the equivalent to a car payment back in the mid 80s to 90s.
Oh, for sure. If not like that would be a major car.
Right.
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 And so, you know, and then you're look at how the circle affects people who have versus people who don't have. If you go and you're looking to buy a car between $3,000 and $9,000, and I even say can you imagine spending $9,000 for your first car? I can't. My first car didn't cost. Like my first car that I like drove and like it really wasn't even bought by me. It was bought by my dad, but I think he gave $1,500 for it in like 1984.
Yeah.
So you look at all of that, but now if I'm going to be able, let's say I'm minimum wage worker and I'm trying to buy an old car.
Yeah.
So I buy a car that's almost 20 years old, 15 years old. Right now, because of availability, I mean, those cars are $6,000 to $9,000.
Right.
But because that car is older than 5 years old or older than 10 years old, you get dinged by the bank for the money that you're going to borrow because the risk of it being able to last as long as it would take to be able to pay it off, i.e. gap insurance, for that to be able to happen. So then they're charging you 12, 15, 17% interest when the cost of money to the bank, because it's discounted to the bank because the bank gets to charge. The cost to the bank is zero, and they're making 17 to 20%, month after month on this stuff. It just is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so you can easily tell through the conversation because we're already, I think, an hour and a half in.
Yeah.
But you can tell that when any of this is involved, you can kind of tell that there's going to be some kind of conspiracy theories that are going to be attached to finance, to markets, to institutions. There's going to be, because you're always looking at it and saying, where's suspicion, there's paranoia, and these things are always going to lead to bigger questions, as we've already brought up a lot. So to be able to think about, well, this is connected to the New World Order, doesn't that sound ridiculous? But we've pulled out some facts that said these things began with a small group of people.
Internationally.
Right.
We're not talking about just from us. And I even hate using that phrase, but so when I'm going to look in the camera, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to get in the habit of it.
Do it.
All right. So when there is a move towards nationalism, that in our country, we're like, we need to be about us. There is a subculture taken place that has happened not just for 5 years. The crumbling, the foundational crumbling hasn't occurred in the last 10 years or 20 years or Lord knows 56 years, just to make it personal to me, but when you're talking about 1907, 1847, you're looking at those frameworks pre-Depression era, and stuff. There was a group that was gathered together internationally, making decisions to say, hey, this is how we're going to set it up. And I'm telling you right now that if you think that there aren't small amounts of groups of people gathered together and having conversations over caviar,
right,
100-year-old scotch, people slumming it or drinking the Irish whiskey.
I'd like some 100-year-old scotch.
I bet you would. Even if you had to talk to some asshole, right?
Yeah. I'd do it.
Yeah.
Even like 2 fingers. Let's do a 2 fingers.
Just
scotch,
2
right?
fingers. Just 2 fingers.
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
I'll talk to an asshole for 2 fingers or 100-year-old scotch.
Oh, wow. So
I'd talk to an actual asshole.
Phil. So when we're navigating and looking at this, like, do I have any idea? There's gatherings where we've read the press isn't allowed to come in. People don't talk about it. Well, who they talk about it to is they talk about it to the people that they're going to this meeting with, and they don't talk about it to anyone else. And so, but then you start thinking about New World Order, international leaders getting together, making decisions. And I still remember when George H. Bush rolled out the NAFTA program in '93. I was 4 years out of college at that point. And I remember in the right-wing evangelicalism that I was a part of at the time, I remember like people thinking The floor was lava, the sky was falling, and the Antichrist was going to appear.
Right.
Why? Because we were going towards this one world trade commission thing that was over, all of this stuff. The bottom line, we have history now on our side to be able to look back. What did it allow to happen? It allowed for American businessmen to move their manufacturing to other countries with tax credits or tax exemptions, right, to allow a people group to work for less money than what the laws in the United States were created for. Like this is just, a part. But we are talking about George H. Bush,
right,
who was the director of the CIA when President Kennedy got shot.
Right. And that's where we have the other blending of conspiracy theories, because we got JFK, which Mike is going to come on.
Yeah.
Other financial conspiracy theories. We've got Adam, who's going to talk about Ponzi schemes.
Yeah.
Eventually, so these are all blending into and surrounding lots of different threads.
Never be surprised when it comes to money and it comes to power that there are conspiracies that will be the dark clouds overall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there is no conspiracy. People who are in it to make money want to separate you from yours.
Oh, yeah. It's true.
Yep. That's why it's it's on us to be able to have due diligence and make the best decisions we can. And if it means that the poor remain poor, and I speak that in the first person, I'm not talking about oppression. Yeah, but I mean, there are just things that I'll never get to be a part of because I wasn't born into the club that allowed me to go to have a secret conversation.
Me either.
But then, if you believe in the sovereignty of God, God probably knew I couldn't keep the secret. I'd be the whistleblower.
I'd be blowing crap up. Oh, man. I think that we have uncovered and suspiciously, I mean, we definitely have raised lots of reasons why this is a conspiracy theory. And I'm sure, again, back to it being a conspiracy theory, that some of these threads have even deeper, you pull the thread and it goes deeper. Some of them...
You're going to unravel my skirt.
Right. There's some of them that we could probably... that might have easier answers than others. But, to be able to say, oh, that's conspiracy, let me tell you why, because here's the answer. But I think it just keeps going. Yeah. And I think that's what we've discovered is that this is going to keep going. Whether we try to debunk every piece of it, it's going to keep going.
Yeah. Because
there's too many questions, too many issues of money and power that it'll just obviously just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's one of those things where in my realization of, you're like, well, what are the conspiracy theories that you think are true? I'm like, oh no, I don't think they're true. I believe they're true. I mean, it's not like I got a hunch, maybe this, it definitely is one of those things where I'm like, when it comes, there's nothing about government that doesn't have strings attached to that. The people who are making the decisions, the people straight across the board, there's no exemptions. Straight across the board. And so then somebody could say, well, then why are you in the United States? I'm like, well, because the non-exemptions are worse everywhere else too. I mean, this is global.
Oh, yeah.
And so why... I'm not saying that I'm discontented with my point of origin or the place where I live.
Yeah.
I don't have a rather. I'd rather be living here. I don't have that. But I'm just very cautious.
And it's what it breeds.
I know that the NSA is listening to my phone, so
I mean, it's the reason why we started with this whole conspiracy, talking about why conspiracy theories exist.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about a power struggle, and it's like, so when I'm not a part of the conversation, then I automatically am going to start thinking that there's something a part of it that I'm not a part of. And then I dig into it.
Yeah.
So.
All right,
We're wrapping up.
Yeah, we're overboard.
We're
Woo! And I'll be able to do it for less than an hour and 45, and everybody will be happy. So, hey, let us know. What about you? What conspiracy theory is like you find it intriguing, and like it maybe even brings a little joy to your heart and mind? And send us an email. Cut Daisies and Unicorns. Hashtag New Studio. Hashtag No New Sponsors.
Not yet. You could be one.
You could be. You could be. We'd love for you to be. So, hey, tomorrow is a national holiday for you if you're listening on Sunday. So enjoy Memorial Day. Make some memories. That's how I'm going to frame Memorial Day, okay? Just make some memories and enjoy your day. And hopefully you have a great rest of the week. I know I will.